Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Always. What are we looking at today?
Well, today we're tackling the race for the next Speaker of the House.
Oh, yeah,
That's a big one.
it is a big one, and it's also one that might seem a little, I don't know, dry at first glance.
Yeah.
But trust me, it's got all the drama and intrigue of, well, a good political thriller.
Uh-huh. I like that.
So we've got a great article from Fox News that we're going to be using as our roadmap today, and
Sounds like
it's going to help us break down all the key players, the potential power shifts,
Mhm.
and what this whole thing could mean for, well, all of us.
Yeah.
Now, I got to ask, have you been following this whole Speaker of the House election thing at all?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's
I
hard not
haven't.
to. It's everywhere.
Right. It's everywhere, and for good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking of some pretty big names here, folks, like
Yeah.
Kevin McCarthy,
Yeah.
Steve Scalise.
Hmm.
You know, these are the folks who could be calling the shots in the House pretty soon. Yeah, and that's a huge deal, right? I mean, the current speaker is stepping down, which basically throws open the doors to a whole lot of political maneuvering.
Yeah. And speaking of political maneuvering,
Yeah.
there was one thing in this Fox News piece that really caught my eye.
Okay, what's that?
It was the mention of both former President Trump and Senator Johnson making what they called their final pitches.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. Now think about that for a second. We've got a former president and a current senator both trying to influence this House Speaker race.
Yeah, that is, you don't see that every day. That's definitely unusual.
Right. And it really makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes. So to break this down a bit, why don't you walk us through why this is such a big deal?
Sure. I mean, first off, you have to consider the kind of influence these figures still hold. Trump, even though he's not in office anymore, he still has a devoted following within the Republican Party.
Absolutely.
And Johnson, he's a well-established senator. He's got his own power base. So when they make these final pitches, people listen. They pay attention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they might even, fall in line. Which brings us to the next question. Are they endorsing specific candidates?
Yeah.
And if so, who?
Right, good question. Now, the article doesn't explicitly state that they're backing specific individuals, but reading between the lines, it's pretty clear that they're trying to steer the race in a particular direction.
And what direction would that be? What are they hoping to see happen?
Well, I think it's safe to say that they're looking for someone who aligns with their own political ideologies, someone who they can count on to push their agenda forward.
Okay, so basically, they're playing power brokers here, trying to shape the House leadership to their liking.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole situation so intriguing, because it raises questions about the potential power dynamics in the House.
Right, you start to think, okay, if one of these guys gets in, who's really pulling the strings?
Exactly.
It's like a whole other layer of, political chess.
Yeah, does
But
too?
let's step back for a second and think about this from a different angle.
Okay, I like it. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Let's put ourselves in the shoes of these candidates for a moment. What do you think motivates someone to actually seek the speakership?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I mean, it's got to be more than just the fancy title, right?
Mm.
What kind of person is drawn to that kind of power, that level of responsibility?
Right, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. I mean, think about it. You're essentially in charge of the entire House of Representatives.
Right.
You're setting the legislative agenda, you're negotiating with the other party, and you're constantly under the microscope.
It's like being the conductor of a very, very loud orchestra, trying to get everyone to play in tune while the whole world is watching.
Perfect analogy, haha. And let's not forget the challenges that come with the job itself.
Oh, yeah, we can't forget about those.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest hurdles the next speaker will have to face?
Well, right off the bat, they're going to be dealing with the divided Congress,
Yeah, always a fun one.
which means getting anything done is going to require serious negotiation and compromise.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then you've got the global landscape, which is, well, let's just say it's pretty volatile right now.
It's a bit of a mess, isn't it?
It is. And that's going to have an impact on everything from trade to foreign policy.
Right, so the next speaker needs to be able to handle international relations, domestic issues, and a whole lot of partisan bickering.
Yes,
Sounds like a dream job, right?
Haha, sign me up. But in all seriousness, it's a tough job. And then on top of all that, you have the constant scrutiny of the media and public opinion.
Right, every move they make is going to be analyzed, debated, and probably criticized.
Pretty much, yeah. So yeah, I'd say it takes a certain kind of person to not only want that job, but also to excel at it.
And what kind of person would that be? What qualities should we be looking for?
Well, I think you need someone who's a skilled communicator,
Uh,
someone who can articulate their vision clearly and persuasively.
okay, so strong communication skills are a must-have. What else?
You also need someone who's a strategic thinker, someone who can see the big picture and anticipate challenges before they arise.
Right, so they need to be able to think ahead, plan ahead, and basically play a few moves ahead in the political chess game.
Exactly. And let's not forget about leadership qualities. You need someone who can inspire and motivate others, someone who can build consensus and get things done, even in the face of opposition.
So we're talking about a real political powerhouse here. Someone who can command a room, negotiate deals, and basically steer the ship through some pretty choppy waters.
Precisely. And it's important to remember that all of this is happening against the backdrop of some pretty critical issues facing our country.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about the economy, healthcare, immigration, you name it.
All these things that affect our everyday lives. And depending on who takes the gavel, we could see drastically different approaches to these issues, leading to very different outcomes.
So this isn't just some abstract political game happening in Washington. This stuff has real-world consequences for all of us.
Exactly. And I think that's something that's often overlooked in the midst of all the political maneuvering. We get caught up in the horse race, who's ahead, who's behind, and we lose sight of the bigger picture.
Right, we forget that these decisions being made in Washington, they have a ripple effect that reaches every corner of the country.
Yeah.
They impact our jobs, our healthcare, our education, everything.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the most important question of all. What qualities and experience should WE, the voters, be looking for in a Speaker of the House?
What kind of leader do we want? What kind of leader do we need? That's the real question, isn't it?
It is, and it's a question that each of us needs to answer for ourselves. Do we want someone who's a strong partisan fighter, or someone who's more of a bridge builder? Do we prioritize bold change or pragmatic solutions?
We want someone who's going to shake things up or someone who's going to try to maintain the status quo.
Yeah, these are the questions we need to be asking ourselves as we follow this race.
Because ultimately, it's our votes that determine who gets that gavel, who gets to shape the legislative agenda, and who gets to lead the House of Representatives.
Exactly. So, as you follow this race, think beyond the headlines. Consider what kind of leadership you believe will best serve the nation in these complex times.
It's a decision that shouldn't be taken lightly. It's a decision that affects all of us.
It really does. So pay attention, stay informed, and make your voice heard.
And on that note, that's our deep dive for today.
Until next time.
See ya.